What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got an awesome shoe battle for you guys. We're gonna do the Deviate Nitro version 1 versus the Deviate Nitro version 2. So let's get into which shoe I prefer. So as you know, if you've watched my channel, in fact, I'm gonna lead into that right now. So if you haven't watched my channel, which you probably should have, if you haven't yet, please subscribe and click that like button below, because I've already done a video on the Deviate Nitro version 1. And if you know about that video, then you should know how much I really like this shoe. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link in the description, or I'll try to add it somewhere on the screen. I'm still learning that stuff, so bear with me, guys. But if you haven't seen that video, please go check out that video, because I absolutely loved this shoe last year. So let's get into this video. Alright, you guys, so I'm going to get into the first shoe on this, which is the version 1 of this shoe, and some of the things that I liked and disliked about it. Now, I'm not going to go into the full stats and features, but I want to compare these two shoes to each other and how they work the same but very different from each other, comparing, the way that they just work. I mean, I've just ran in both of them and they're pretty awesome. So, in fact, I actually did run back-to-back runs in these shoes. I ran one day in this and then one day in the Deviate Nitro 2 to kind of get a feel for which one I would prefer. Now, the upper on this shoe, I really like the upper. It has almost like that booty construction design here in the forefoot. The thing that I dislike, and it had a really good lockdown. That's the other thing. It had a really, really good lockdown. You felt like the shoe was really attached to your foot. Over the midfoot and especially through the toe box. You just really had a good toe feel getting off your toe going forward. The downside of this shoe was really in this heel counter area. For a lot of other runners, they had issues where this area back here, because there really wasn't any padding, you had these two little bumper pads on each side, but you really didn't have any padding down in this area. And this area caused a lot of blistering for a lot of other runners. I never really had that issue with this shoe. It always locked down really well and I didn't have that rub. The other thing is mine kind of broke in back here where it kind of flexed to my Achilles a little bit better, so maybe that's the reason why. But a lot of other runners had that issue where it rubbed this area and they got some blisters. And I do have to say that comfort-wise, that was something that was you had to get a little used to it, because it definitely felt like a racing shoe. Even though this was a tempo trainer to go with the racing shoe, the Deviate Nitro Elite, there is something about this that you didn't really want to run in this every day, even though it's technically that's what it was built for, was to be the trainer that you could run in every day to go with that shoe. So that was something that I didn't really like about the upper, but overall I did like the other elements of the upper. It was fairly breathable, but it definitely had like this booty construction in the forefoot, which just made it really comfortable and also had a really good lockdown. Now the midsole, I love the Nitro midsole foam. This is probably one of my favorite foams out there on the market because it is resilient, it has good compression, it's bouncy, it's helped me get through a couple of half marathons and quite a few 10Ks and just a lot of mileage in this shoe. Well over 100-something miles, I think, is in this shoe. I mean, it's like 150, 160 miles or something. So it's pretty high in this shoe. Now, they did add a heel plate back here, which aided in stability. That's what you see right here, this little clip piece that they kind of wedged in. Just aided in stability here in the heel section. And then there was this carbon-infused TPU inno plate that they had in here, which provided some rigidity to the shoe. As you can see, it flexes a little bit, but it's still got a nice kind of pop and rigidity to it. And then underneath you have Puma Grip, which is probably the best outsole on the market, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like, it is incredibly grippy, it's incredibly durable, it's just awesome stuff. Like, Puma Grip is absolutely amazing. So that is this shoe, and you can see where it's got the rocker design in the forefoot. This shoe was just, it was about efficiency. It may not be the fastest shoe out there, but it was about efficiency, and I think it did it really well. Now going to the Deviate Nitro 2, this is where things get a little different, because in this shoe they kind of fixed some of the things that were wrong with the version 1, and they fixed them all in version 2 and made it a little bit better. So let's kind of talk about that. So the upper here is definitely more breathable, especially in the toe box area. It definitely has more breathable holes in it. It doesn't have that same booty-like construction with the material on the inside of the shoe. It does have a winged gusseted tongue, where the other one had like a full booty construction gusset, which makes it so that it's more of like a thinner mesh material in the forefoot area. So the breathability of this shoe is phenomenal. The tongue feels about the same when it comes to padding, maybe a little touch more padding on this version than in the first version, but I do like the laces. The laces are these stretchy flat laces, which just really help with the comfort of the shoe, especially on those longer runs. Now, this is the big one. They fixed the heel counter area. So now we have full padding right in the heel counter. It is super comfortable. It is like pillows compared to the first version of the shoe. Fairly stout heel counter here, still some flexibility with it, so overall not too bad. And again, much like the first one, it's just a screen printed overlay on the side. It has no real structural support here, but they did on this version, they added some of this power tape on the inside of the shoe right here, and I guess this is supposed to add some structural integrity to the medial side of your foot. So that is a positive here. So if I had to pick the uppers between these two shoes, the Deviate Nitro version 2 versus the version 1, I definitely have to go with the version 2. It's more comfortable, it's more breathable, it's got a better lockdown. Even though this was still a fantastic lockdown, the lockdown in this one is just a little bit better. So if I have to pick between the uppers between these two, it's gonna go Deviate Nitro 2. Now, I already spoke about the Nitro 1's midsole foam being that full Nitro midsole, which is I believe it's a Nitro-infused eTPU midsole material. I'd have to correct myself on that. But in this version, we have two different Nitro foams. We have in the heel section here, which is just this big chunk. It's kind of hard to kind of see, but it's slightly wider right here. And this section here is the Nitro infused eTPU foam that they used in the first version. But what you have laying on top and then going right through the forefoot section is that P-Bax based or PIBA based Nitro Elite foam, which they use on the Deviate Nitro Elite. And this is a little bit softer, a little bit more compressive, and a little bit bouncier. So kind of like what they use on the Vaporfly and the Alpha Fly from Nike. It's the same kind of material that's being used here. So it's a little bit softer underneath your forefoot. It's a little bit more compressive and a little bit more bouncy when you're up on your toes, which just adds to the comfort of this shoe. They still have a plate inside here, but they call it a power plate in this version. I'm gonna get into that here in a second, what's the difference between those two. But the other thing is this power plate is a little bit more flexible than the Inno plate that was in the first version. So if you want something that's a little bit more forgiving on the ride, the Deviate Nitro 2 is going to be your best bet. If you want something that's more rigid, then the Deviate Nitro 1 is going to be your best bet. But there is a difference in the way the plates are made. So I'm going to get into that here right now. The plate in the Deviate Nitro version 1, the Inno plate design, and unfortunately I don't have the shoe cut open, but in the forefoot area, the big toe has its own little section of the plate, and then the other toes are connected on another section. So it's basically like a fork right here. Now the whole plate is still one piece, but it forks off right here. So you basically have like your, kind of where it's difficult for me here, But where my 3 fingers are attached together and then you have your index finger where it's separated, that's kind of how the plate looks inside the shoe. It's got a separate plate or separate section, so it's forked where the big toe is at. And then the way that the rear of the plate, I guess, is designed is a little bit different as well. But it still has the same concept of how low it gets to the ground, where it's cut really close to the ground, so you got a little bit more foam underneath your forefoot, and then that plate actually comes up towards the heel. So that part of the design is still the same in the version 2, but instead of having that fork design in the big toe area, now it's all one plate. The plate, instead of being arced or rounded at the top, is straight across, and then the plate, when it comes to the heel area, is also angled. So it's actually angled from the lateral side down to the medial side. And I guess what they have found is that the plate with that type of design creates a much smoother ride for the runner, which is really nice. So again, the plate not as rigid, but it's also designed in a way to make the ride a little bit smoother for the runner. And the plate also aids in some stability of the shoe. It's still a neutral shoe. It still has a little bit of twist to it, but it does aid in a little bit of stability with this shoe. It also has just a smidge more stack height. I only think it's like 2 millimeters worth of stack height, so nothing really crazy, but it's still there. It's still noticeable, especially when you sit the 2 shoes side by side. It's mildly noticeable, but you can still kind of see that there's about a 2 millimeter stack height difference between the 2 shoes. So if you're looking for a little bit more comfort underneath your foot, you're definitely going to want to go Deviate Nitro 2. Now, going to the outsole, Puma grip, absolutely amazing. As always, just ton of grip, ton of traction. Different design on this one, but equally as good as the first version. So I can't really say that one's better than the other. The only difference is you do have grooves cut out here and here slightly on the medial side. So maybe slight bit less rubber. Also some more, so I like to call them speed holes right here in the midsection to kind of lessen the weight a little bit. But again, ton of traction in just about every condition that I've been able to throw this thing in. Grass, wet, whatever, it's ton of grip in this shoe. So again, I can't really say that one's better than the other when it comes to the outsole traction, so I'm going to give it a tie between the 2 shoes there. But again, if you're looking for comfort, a little bit softer ride underfoot, maybe a little bit more bounce underneath your foot, then I would go with the Deviate Nitro 2. If you want something that's a little bit more responsive, maybe a little bit more resilient too, you want to go with the Deviate Nitro 1 if you're okay with just a slightly firmer ride. It's not a firm ride, it's just slightly firmer than this one. So yeah, but if I had to pick one shoe, I would definitely pick this shoe. Why? Because I feel like this shoe, I feel like the version 2 is a completely versatile shoe. You can do just about everything in the shoe. It's that Swiss Army knife of running shoes that's like the Saucony Endorphin Speed. It's durable, and I think this is better than the Endorphin Speed, really, because it has a little bit more outsole rubber, so it's going to be a little bit more durable. But it's like the Endorphin Speed in so many ways. It has that flexibility to it. It has the comfort in the upper. It has the midsole foam that's compressive and bouncy and can do all that thing, but yet it's still resilient and it's going to last you a long time. So it kind of does the things that the Saucony Endorphin Speed does. But in my opinion, I think this kind of does it a little bit better. It just me. I think the outsole has something to do with it because it increases its versatility versus the Endorphin Speed. And I also feel that the upper just feels a little bit more comfortable than what I dealt with in the Endorphin Speed. Now, I haven't tried the V3, the version 3 of the Endorphin Speed, but this shoe, it was kind of like when I had the choice of picking this shoe or the Endorphin Speed, I went with this just because of my experience with the version 1. And I knew that this shoe is going to be versatile enough that it can do all the same things that the Endorphin Speed can, and I get the durability and versatility of this outsole rubber from Puma, the Puma grip. So if I had to pick one, it would be the version 2, but I loved the version 1. I still run in the version 1. I just don't run as long of distances in the version 1 anymore because the midsole just doesn't feel like it's as good as it used to be. But it's still a very good shoe. I still enjoy running in it. It still has a place in my heart and in my rotation. So yeah, so the version 1, but version 2, I gotta give it. This shoe is absolutely fantastic. Check it out at Puma's website, puma.com. Every once in a while they have some discount codes that you can also use this and get it at a discount. So if you find a discount code from Puma for this shoe, definitely use it and pick this up for, you know, however much it is with the discount. It's worth it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give this a thumbs up. Also click that subscribe button and the bell for notifications on when new content drops. And as always, guys, thank you for watching and enjoy the run.